chainsaw. All right, I got my Dolmar 100 here. I was cutting. I was helping my dad kind of clean up a tree and was cutting with it, and this thing was dying at idle. So, yeah, look at all that. A couple of things we're going to do is we're going to clean this thing up. Take all this stuff out. And then we'll get the carburetor, see if we can fix it. How the heck does this always wrap on itself? There it goes. Here's the chain. See if you can see the edge on it. I sharpened it not too long ago, but yeah, it feels pretty sharp. Let's get to this carburetor. Not much holding it in. Let me get you guys closer here. All right, so it's just a couple little stubs here, and then you got your gas line. It feels pretty good. You got your throttle down here. So then this is your choke. Let's go that way. Oh, nice and slow. All right, here's the fuel line. Let me get my special fuel line removing tool, which is a flathead. For doing everything. I think that this thing just comes out with it. Yeah, cool. All right, put all this over here so I don't knock it off. All right, that's pretty much it for the saw. Let's bust open this bad boy. All right, so I have the carburetor here. What was happening is after it warmed up, it started just dying at idle as if it was slowly running out of fuel. When I would have it wide open, it ran just fine, and I actually didn't really have to tune it. I was messing with the jet a lot, trying to lean it out, enriching it, and if it wasn't running at a high idle, so adjusting the idle screw here, if I got it fast enough to where the chain was engaged, it would stay alive, but that's too high. You don't want to do that with a chainsaw. It should be able to idle without the chain moving. My thought is, this metering diaphragm, I remember first taking this apart when I first got the saw, and it being a little crunchy. So let's take a look and see if we have a replacement for it. So, because I don't think anything else on the saw really needs to be replaced. It does need to be cleaned, as you guys saw, but this was a pretty good unit when I bought it. I bought it used from a guy here in the Sacramento area. And who knows how long this thing was sitting before I got it. It sounded like it sat for a long time. So that thing's pretty crunchy. Wonder if we can pull it off here. So you see here, bring it up for you guys. It has a long needle on it. Pretty crunchy. I have a feeling it just wasn't really working well at the lower speeds. So let's take a look at this pump here. Let's just make sure everything's nice and clean And it has a little filter screen on it. So if it starts getting clogged, you want to take a peek at this too, but it's that screen right there. It has a little bit. Maybe I can give that a little squirt, but the pump itself looks brand new. And it has some fresh gas in it. Because like I said, everything else was working really, really good. It was just that low idle was kind of running out of gas on me. And that would be just a lazy diaphragm there. You guys might not have a good look at this. Let me see if I can get you a good angle here. You guys won't really be able to see inside of it, but I just have a bunch of little two-stroke things. See there? See if I can find a rebuild kit. Looks a little bit better. Here's what I found. This is a newer one. Well, it probably came out of something old, but here's the old one. The needles appear to be the same height. This one's pretty wrinkled up. It looks like the holes should line up. We'll give it a shot. Again, I have a fresh one coming. That carburetor was easy to get to, so if it doesn't work, oh well. All right. So here's the new one. I believe this goes like so. Feels okay. Good idea to kind of get these going finger tight so you don't chew up the diaphragm or gasket or anything like that. Well, not finger tight, but just started. Double check this one. Okay. Let's throw it back on the saw and put some gas in it, huh? This will be a choke. There it goes. And that's how it works. Throttle works. Gas line's on. Put that choke back on so I don't drop screw down there. It's a little righty-tighty. Little something. Nothing crazy. Okay. Let me go clean out all of this gunk right here. I like to put the chain on before I run it so we don't lose the clutch. Believe it or not, I've lost it a few times. So I'm going to clean everything else up off camera, put it back together, and then I'll see you guys outside with a little bit of gasoline in it. Gasoline yet? We'll do enough just for a test here. Always run your saws with the bar oil. All right, let's see if she fires up. Try it one more time. Losing it. May need a little more fuel. Let's bump up the idle. Not ready yet. Yeah, there's something going on with the carburetor here. Let's see what time it is. We may be able to pull it back out and take another peek real fast, but we may just have to wait for the rebuild too. But let's throw it back on the bench and see what happens. All right, let's open her back up and see what's going on here. A test we can do, let me get some hose real fast. And we can actually blow through this line and see if the needle's holding up. So what you see is I have this hooked up with a little bit of hose, and I can press on this needle and see how the airflow is through here. Seems pretty good to me. See if you can see here. It looks like, I don't know if you guys can see it, looks like it says WT. I don't see any other identifier. Let me check here. I do have an adjustment tool. Bring you guys back. All right, so I do have a Walbro adjustment tool. Yep, see right here? You guys probably can't see. It says WT right at the bottom there. So how you check that, I don't know if I've shown you guys this, but you put this here, and that should line up right there. Let me flip you guys around so we can get a good look here. That looks pretty good to me. You want it right there without it touching. And it moves pretty easy. We can double check the needle height. We'll just do a guesstimate. So here's the here's the new one. Push it right up against there. It's 1.42. See what this one is. Okay. 1.51. So it's a little bit smaller. I'd be shocked if it made that big of a difference, but it is smaller. Now, this is not a long-term fix. Just heads up. This is just to see if we get this thing running normal, because I do have a new one coming. This will just help kind of keep it loose. All right, let me clean up, get everything back in the saw. We'll put some gas in it and see what happens. All right, I have gas in the tank. Let's see if we can get her going, eh? It's got to be that diaphragm. I'm sure the WD-40 wore off and then it started getting all crunchy again. It's the idle. Just weird. Feels like it has compression. Let's turn it. Yeah. Yeah, that has good compression. I can't imagine that being the case. Let's just wait for the new diaphragm to come in and see what it does. But otherwise, I think everything else should be okay. Oh, well, that's not helping. So before we move on, just a quick thing I wanted to point out and why I think it's the metering diaphragm. Again, I'm no expert on any of this stuff, but where the problem seemed to be coming from was not that it is like running lean as if it was an air leak, but it was rich. The only way you can get it to run is to run it rich. And then what happened is when it would finally go to idle, it'd be too rich and it'd want to die. You try to dial it back and there was just no fine tuning until it cut the fuel. That's telling me that I believe that the metering diaphragm's not letting the correct amount of fuel in. And so it's having a really hard time with those needle adjustments because it's probably running lean, or it's probably running a little lean. So what you need to do is bump up the RPMs and suck more fuel so it's letting fuel in, because it should be letting so much in, you know, under normal circumstances. And when you're gunning in or going faster, it's going to suck more in, it's going to create more vacuum and draw more fuel in. But what's probably happening is that it's probably losing, I imagine it's probably the opposite. It's probably losing the pull to bring that diaphragm down during idle because there's just not enough pressure there. And so either you run it rich, so there's a lot of fuel coming out to keep that diaphragm moving, or if you try to bring it back where it's supposed to be, then it's not enough for that diaphragm to move and open up that needle. And then we're probably having the same issue with that other diaphragm, probably too because it's old and chunky, so it's not moving very well. But then the needle was a little bit smaller. So again, you need more fuel to pull it, which means you have to run it richer. And so in this case, we're just going to wait for the new one. I think what we're running into is just old diaphragms in a carburetor that just needs a little refresh. We'll see what happens when the new one comes in. But if I was to put money on it, I think that's what it would be. But that's what was going on with that tuning, is that the fine tuning of idle wasn't there. I couldn't fine tune, where it sounded good. And that's usually, to me, indicative of like a diaphragm issue or something like that. It wasn't like a fuel pump because it's easily getting fuel there, and the needle was seating, so it's not like it's a leaky needle or anything like that. Like it's just flooding, because you would see flooding if that was the case. This, I just couldn't get the fine adjustment. So usually when you can't tune it, because you'll probably run into issues where you're like, I just can't tune this thing. It's either going too rich or it's dying. That's probably your metering diaphragm. So let's see if a quick replacement of this gets us going in the right direction. Again, I never rebuilt this thing. I just got it and I ran it. And usually, because you have oil in your two-stroke fuel, you run it enough. And I think what happened is I had the WD-40 in there and it loosened it up a little bit. The actual fuel washed all of that away really fast. So within maybe a minute or two of trying to tune it, it just went back to being crap. And so that might be just like a quick check. If the WD-40 helps out for like a little bit, then it should be like a surefire. Your diaphragm just doesn't have enough flexibility to it. So again, we'll see when this new one comes in, and we'll put it all back together and see if we get this puppy idling. All right, bring you back when that comes in. All right, got the rebuild kit. We also have some tree work coming, so I'll try to be quick with this, but looks like a whole different needle than what came with it. And this one's a metal tip. Let's see if you guys can see it. You guys are over here. So this is what was in it. It might be rubber. Let's see what we got going on in her. Oh yeah, there's the right one. I thought I didn't have the right needle. Cool. Yeah, so it's a metal tip again, same one. So we'll put this with the new stuff. Here is the new diaphragm. Looks pretty much identical. Let's see if you guys can see the seeds on them. So here's the old one. Here's the new one. Looks pretty good. So we'll put that over here. I don't want to hang on to that. I guess we have new plugs if we want to clean it out. Let's see here. I don't really want to. What I'll do is let me take this old screen out. I'll go, let me go run some carb cleaner through this outside, and then I'll come right back. Give her a little carb clean bath. Everything's looking really good. I'm not going to do those plugs because I don't want to. So see if it has any lasting effects. I'm sure it would probably be wise to do them, but I'm not going to do them. And then with one swoop here, see if we can set it in there. Aha. There you go, that's how you do it. Yeah, WT, see if you guys can see that or not. So we're gonna use the WT, the WT gauge here. So if I do this, it's a little low. So we're gonna take our tool, and what we're gonna wanna do is kind of pry on it up a little bit, so. We're gonna call that good. All right. Let's put some of this stuff over here. So what we're gonna wanna do is, let's do these needles. Okay, those may be crazy tight. We can test this seat out. Seems like it's doing okay. And then try to do this by hand, because if it binds up at all, then you're ruining your diaphragm if you try to start torquing on it. You want these to thread in nice and easy. So that has everything but the plugs taken out. The reason I didn't do that is because I believe it's just cleaning in there. Those are the jet passages. So if it was leaking, I believe if you're having problems with it flooding and things like that, then you'll probably want to take a look at those if the needle's set right. In our case, we didn't have that problem. Ours was just dying at idle, I believe, because this was crunchy and wasn't allowing the correct fuel flow during idle. And so it just kind of ran out. And again, the fine tuning wasn't there. Usually another indication that the flow of the needle is just not right. So let me get this back in the machine. We'll get some gas in it and I'll bring you out there and we'll see how she starts up. All right, so I'm gonna throw her on. You have the tuners right here, low, high. So I'll be going between the two, see if I can get her tuned up, see if the carb rebuild works. So let's see. Something's not right. I can't seem to get it below a certain point here. Let's see if this zooms in or focuses at all. That looks like it's moving fine. And the plate in there looks like it's closing. But that's all the way. And it's still revving pretty high. That's telling me air is getting in somewhere. I wonder if something cracked on us. I think this one's gonna take a little more time. I think we're gonna have to start taking some stuff off, and I think we're gonna have to start seeing if something may have broken in the intake side here. So this is gonna turn out to be a little bit bigger of a job than I thought. I thought we'd just be looking at the carburetor here, but I don't know now. I'm thinking we got a serious issue going on with this chainsaw. That's a bummer. I was hoping to use it. Hopefully we didn't crack anything. Guess we'll find out. All right. Well, I guess see you guys in part 2 of taking this thing apart. All right. Until next time, everybody.